Hello friends, back with another episode of LoveJavascript series, and in this video I am going to talk about one of the most asked interview question, that is what is the meaning of undefined and undeclared in JavaScript and what are the difference between these two keywords. Before starting this video, if you haven't subscribed this channel, then please do subscribe this channel because it helps me to reach larger audience and it encourages me to make more useful content for you guys. So let's begin this video.
As we all know that JavaScript is a dynamically typed language. What do you mean by the dynamically typed language? So dynamically typed language means whenever you are declaring any variable to it, you don't need to assign what could be the value of this variable. So initially you are not specifying that what a variable's value could be. For an example, in a JavaScript, let's say if you are declaring any variable by a syntax var a, you haven't said that what would be the type of a, right? In the next line we have assigned number 7 to this variable a. Now the type of this variable a will become integer or a number, right? In the next line we can reassign the value string to this variable a. Now the type will become string, and a similar, if we try to assign any boolean value to it, the type will become boolean, right? So on a runtime we are lefting on a JavaScript that hey, you decide what a variable's type could be, and this is one of the useful feature of a JavaScript. I will come little bit later. Now let's understand what is a statically typed language. So on the other hand, if you take a example of a C, so C is a statically typed language. It's a statically typed language, means if you want to declare any integer value to this variable b, you need to specify int before this variable and then you can reassign any integer value to it. But if you, let's say if you declare this int and you try to assign a string value to it, it will throw an error. It means C is a statically typed language. You cannot change a variable's value on a runtime. Many developers and researchers in JavaScript community says that this is a bad feature. Flexibility of assigning different values to any particular variables whose type is not yet defined is a bad feature of JavaScript. But let me tell you friends, this is one of the beautiful feature of a JavaScript, and we will understand that why this is beautiful feature. For an example, let's say you have declared any variable var a equal to 7. This value you have declared. Now in the next line you have declared var b equal to 7, and this is a string and this is a number. Now if you try to compare this value by an equality sign, b, a equal to b, what it will give? It will say that hey, this both value are equal, but in reality this is not equal. A is 7 and b is string 7, right? But JavaScript, during the execution of this line, it will change the type of a. Currently it is number, but it will change, make it to string, and then after the comparison happen, and this we will get the true value. Now this is a very important feature of a JavaScript, and this is called the coercion. Now suppose you got an API, you are a front-end developer and you are trying to integrate a back-end API, and in that back-end API, when that API give any success result, it will give a status code 200, and that could be string as well as it could be integer. It can be decided by the back-end team that what the value it can give, right? Now you have integrated that API in a front end, and that code has moved to the production. And there you are checking that if a status code is 200, means if a status code is a number and if it is equal to 200, then your program means you take that response and then you will do whatever the stuff that you are going to perform. But let's say after 1 year and any developer by mistake change that value to string. Now on the next day when you come to office, you got that okay, this page is breaking and you got a production bug, and then you investigated, then you found that here in a code we got the value as a string, right? But it should be an integer, but it has already hampered your it is already hampered the business, right? So at that point of a time when we are going to check the scenario, we try to code it like by loosely, by not checking the type. We just check the value, that whether 200 could be a string or it could be a number. If both are the case, let's check that, and if a value is coming as a true, then we will perform the action. By doing this, you will not run in any problem and your production code will run as it is, irrespective of what the status code could come from the backend. If they are saying that no, we'll send a string and later on they will change to integer, you are safe, no blame will come on that. So this is an important property and this is called coercion. We will discuss in a detail about this coercion in a later video, and this is one of the most asked interview questions. So now you got a fair idea that what dynamically typed language and why the dynamicity of JavaScript helps several bugs on a production environment and why it's a useful feature. So now you might be wondering that what are the types associated with JavaScript. So in JavaScript there are 7 built-in types. After ES6 we got the introduction of symbol as a type. So before ES6 we were only having this 6 types. First one is this null, undefined, boolean, number, string, and this object and a symbol. So there are 7 built-in types. Apart from this object, except this object, all these values are called primitives in JavaScript. And here now you got your question that what this undefined. So undefined is nothing but one built-in types. Now we will finally come to our question that what undefined, undeclared is and what is the difference between them. So undefined is a built-in type in a JavaScript, whereas undeclared means, suppose if you are trying to read any variable's value before it's a declaration, then you will get a reference error by saying that this variable is not defined. So that is basically undeclared, that variable is undeclared. So now we will understand through an example. So let's go to the code editor and understand this. So let's say here we are trying to access this value console.log a. What it will give? Any guess? You guess it right. It will give a reference error by saying a is not defined. It means that this value a is not declared yet and we are trying to access this in this accessible scope. Now what will happen if I will say var a? I have declared a variable a but haven't assigned this value. What could be its value? Its value is undefined, right? Because the value is not yet declared. Now suppose we are putting this value 5 over here. Now a is having value 5 and we are trying to access after its declaration. We will get 5. How we can confirm? Let's put a debugger and try to run it. Now here you see this is a global scope and here you see a is undefined. Why it's undefined? We have put a debugger over here and we have restricted that hold on, don't execute this line, and we are trying to see what is the value associated with a. This is a undefined. Now if I will try to run this whole piece, then you will get this value 5, right? So whenever in any accessible scope you try to access the declared variables value, you will get either undefined or the associated value. But in that accessible scope, if you try to access any variables value which is not even try to access the variable which is not even declared, so you will get a reference error, and by saying that that particular variable is not defined or that particular function is not defined, right? You got the idea. Now let's understand why this happens. Now as you saw in our program, this var a equal to 5, and then you console.log and you got 5 over here. Now when this program will run, JavaScript first create a execution context. I have already discussed this. So it will create a execution context, and in this execution context there are two components. First one is the variable environment, and this one is the code component or thread of execution. Now when JavaScript go through this whole program, first it will go through a memory creation phase. In memory creation phase, it will scan all the variables and the functions, and it will try to allocate the spaces for them. So for variable a, you will get undefined. This is a built-in type. Consider it as a placeholder. So in memory creation phase, for a we got an initial value associated with a is undefined, right? Undefined. Now once the execution of this a will happen, this line will happen in this code component, we get the value 5. Now this will go, 5 will go and replace this undefined, this placeholder, by 5. So in variable environment you got this 5. Now when you are accessing this variable a by consoling log, you got the 5, because it will go and ask and check in variable environment that what the value associated with a, and it found that the value is 5, and hence it printed the 5. But when you are saying this var a, means you haven't assigned a value. So again, if this will be executed, what you will get? Because after this execution, it will go and check that what is the value associated with it. It will find that the value is still undefined. That's why you got the undefined. I showed you in the code also, right? You got this value undefined. So I hope you got the fair idea of what dynamically typed language is, why JavaScript is a dynamically typed language, and why it is a useful feature. We also got a little bit about Corson and how it is useful for us. We took an example of an API, and when you are integrating at the front end, why the Corson helps in that process. And now we also talked about what are the 7 built-in type in a JavaScript, right? And we talk about what undefined is, and we go through all these phases.
With this, I would like to end this video, and if you enjoyed watching this video, then please do like and subscribe this channel. And if you have any questions related to this topic, then please do put inside the comment box. I will try to resolve that as soon as possible. Thank you for watching Love JavaScript series.